This is Cruise Radio.
I cruise a lot, and I always sail with travel insurance. You should, too. Get a free quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida.
This is
Cruise Radio.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Doug Parker. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Cruise Radio. Very happy to have you here, my friend, coming at you from Abu Dhabi today. And we have a review of, Norwegian Luna on this week's show. But as always, staff writer Richard Sims here with your weekly dose of cruise news. Hey, Richard.
Hey, I can't say that I'm in Abu Dhabi, unfortunately. I am stuck at home.
We'll start with a story we've been actually covering since, almost a year ago now, since last fall, about 18-year-old Anna Kepner, who was allegedly murdered on board the Carnival Horizon.
Yeah, we say allegedly only because legal issues. This whole case is still pending and all that. But from the start, the young woman's stepbrother was a suspect in this situation. One of the things which has bothered some members of her extended family and much of the public has been the fact that the young man accused of this horrific crime has been wandering around free on a pretrial release order while things were sort of working their way through the system. Well, this week, it was determined that Timothy Hudson, who is the 16-year-old who is not only being charged with the crime, but he's also being charged as an adult due to the nature of the crime, he's being taken into custody. He is now in custody, in fact, and he will remain there while awaiting trial. He had been staying with a family member, but a judge this week reversed that decision. In doing so, the judge said that Hudson, who has pled, it's worth mentioning, he has pled not guilty to charges of murder and aggravated sexual assault. But the judge said that Hudson has shown, and I'm quoting court documents here, a level of psychopathy and lack of remorse that by itself raises a serious concern that he can snap at any time, despite the well-meaning and serious efforts of his caretakers to make sure that does not happen. So basically, they have decided he is a threat and he needs to be locked up while awaiting trial. He's in federal custody and he'll remain there. The trial, as of now, is slated to begin in September. So this is, definitely a story we will be following as it moves through the court system.
And in another crime-related story, a 25-year-old man has been arrested for some pretty disturbing behavior, actually, on a Royal Caribbean ship.
Yeah, according to reports, Matthew Stillwell of Illinois was sailing on Royal Caribbean's Allure of the Seas, and this was at the end of May, so very recently. It's alleged that he came across a 13-year-old female passenger who was in a shop, and he started taking pictures or video, I guess it's video, without her consent, including under her dress. The girl, who was, again, 13 years old, told her mom, who talked to ship security. There's some indication from the local reporting that Stillwell and the girl knew each other prior to the incidents, but it's unclear as to whether that means they'd crossed paths on the ship or they knew one another before boarding. It's a little, that detail is sort of sketchy. In any case, when the ship returned to Port Everglades, police boarded, they viewed security footage, and he was taken into custody on charges of video voyeurism. As of Tuesday, he was still being held on a $22,500 bond.
All right, up next, a very expensive update on those passengers who were arrested fighting in the Bahamas. Now, this wasn't the one at the beach club. This was on the pier, correct?
Right. We have to be very specific here because over the past couple of weeks, there have been several fights in the Bahamas at various locations. This one took place at the Nassau Cruise Pier, and the video obviously went viral. As we told you previously, that particular fight, well, let's call it what it was. It was a brawl. Call it whatever you want, but it resulted in 5 people being arrested and taken into custody. And once they were, a woman allegedly threw a chair through a glass door, and then we saw a video of a guy who gets caught, like basically trying to kick out the rest of that glass, and he goes through the door and tries to escape. Needless to say, all of this went viral. The Tribune, which is a paper out of Nassau, is now reporting that 6 people ranging in age from 19 to 50, 50, come on, dude, no better, So they were aged between 19 and 50, and they're being hit with a variety of fines associated with everything that went down. All told, they add up to about $50,000. In some cases, the individuals are being made to compensate officers for damages to their persons or belongings, and if they don't pay up, they could wind up behind bars. And in the least surprising development ever, several of these people involved have admitted that they might have been intoxicated. What a shock.
And it looks as if MSC is being sued for, whoa, a whole lot of money.
You could say that again. A woman named Alessandra Maderni, who is the founder and chief executive officer of Dreamology Labs, just hit MSC with a lawsuit seeking $1.9 billion. That's billion with a B dollars. The lawsuit is against not only the cruise line, but it also names the cruise line's executive chairman, Pier Francesco Vago, personally. The suit alleges, and I'm quoting here, a years-long pattern of fraudulent business inducement, breach of non-disclosure agreement, and trade secret misappropriation. So what seems to have happened here was it goes all the way back to like 2019 and a series of meetings in which the folks at Dreamology proposed several onboard things that would be intellectual property. And the suit alleges that MSC later basically went back and stole that intellectual property and incorporated it into several onboard experiences. Now, MSC sort of sold these as if they were completely their own, and they completely ignored. There was a non-disclosure agreement. I did a little bit of a deep dive on this because there's a whole lot of documents and there's so much more to this. But at heart, it is basically this Dreamology company saying, hey, we presented you with these ideas, you left, went home, incorporated them, ignored us, and basically stole all of our ideas. So because of that, let's just say, based on everything that I've read of this, and I went through and read all the court documents and stuff, if this goes to court, as opposed to being settled, things could get really nasty. That's all I'm going to say.
Dude, you have to end this week on a positive note here because it's been like 4 stories in a row of just negativity.
You're right. It's all crime and lawsuits. How about we talk about one of my favorite topics, food on cruise ships? It just so happens that Carnival Cruise Line recently announced a whole slew of new offerings as part of something called the Next Course. We already knew that they were slowly but surely kind of rolling out these new menus in the main dining rooms, and that's eventually going to, be across the entire fleet. But they're also introducing 4 new restaurants, which is the good news. There is a little bad news, but it's not terrible bad news. The bad news is that you won't actually be able to eat in any of these restaurants until they debut, which will be in May of 2027. They're going to hit on Carnival Festival when she makes her debut. So what are these concepts they're looking at? Well, we have full details over on cruiseradio.net, but I'm going to hit the highlights right here. So 2 of the restaurants are complimentary and 2 of them are specialty restaurants, meaning you will pay a fee to eat in them. Let's do the complimentaries first. There's Ukulele, which I love the name of. It's going to be a complimentary sort of Hawaiian restaurant that's sort of Asian infused. They'll feature things like poke bowls and Mongolian short ribs. Again, that's a complimentary restaurant. Another complimentary venue is called Fettuccine, which is being described as sort of a Greek and Italian fusion of style. That just sounds amazing to me. Now, the specialty restaurants, meaning they'll come with a fee, are Le Bistro Musicale, which is described as being a love letter to French cuisine, and it's going to have the feel of sort of like hanging out in a Parisian cafe. Honestly, it reminds me a lot of Emerald's Bistro. What is it? 1280 or whatever the number is.
Yeah, it's different on all the ships, yeah.
Oh, right. It reminds me a lot of that, except whereas that leans into sort of more Creole food and stuff that's known in New Orleans, this is leaning into the Parisian side of things. So that's one of them. There will also be another, which is Emerald's coastal seafood. This, you can tell from the title what the specialty is going to be here, but they say it'll celebrate the best of land and sea. As part of this, there's also going to be some new bars opening up. There'll be some pop-up experiences, all coming in. And, you'll start seeing some of this in the next few months as we build up to Carnival Festival, and then right after, however long after, Carnival Tropical. Those are the two ships that will introduce these concepts. We'll have to see if over time, as some of the other ships go into dry dock, do they get these new restaurants, whether all of them or some of them.
And speaking of food, Holland America has stepped up in a pretty cool way.
I love this idea. So for me, typically when I'm on the last night of a cruise, I try and book the steakhouse because I like to make it special. But what Holland America is doing is recognizing how special that final night is and rolling out something called farewell dinner. And the cool thing is, this is not something extra. This is something they're just going to do in the main dining room at the end of every cruise. And they say it's designed to be sort of your fitting finale to the cruise. The farewell dinner will feature a special menu. It's going to feature songs. The menu will sort of highlight Holland America's culinary heritage. So among the stuff that's featured here, for example, is, for starters, they'll have chili, sweet potato, and a word that I can't pronounce, salad. They'll have, as main courses, they might have, for example, truffled mushroom risotto or pork braised lamb shank. There's just all kinds of things. There will be some that are available for a surcharge, including a 15-ounce Pinnacle Grill boneless ribeye, which sounds, like, let's say you have somebody in your group who would rather go to the steakhouse. Well, guess what? They can go to the main dining room, have this farewell dinner, and order this surcharge thing that, is a beautiful steak that's coming from the steakhouse. I just think this is so cool, and they're going to do it every single night. It'll also include special music. I guess there's something called Home to Rotterdam that'll be playing in the background, and the cruise director is going to reflect on memorable moments from the cruise. Some of them will be like what destinations you went to. Some of it'll be like if they know that people have formed friendships on board, they'll highlight that. The whole thing is really designed to make that last night feel, instead of feeling dread at going back to your room and putting your suitcase out in the hallway and, all the sad feelings that we get with the last night, this is designed to truly be a celebration and give you a chance to look back at the last, however long your cruise was, and really revel in the amazing trip that you had. I love this. I think every cruise line should steal it. It's amazing.
Well, I'm looking at a Holland America cruise next spring, so hopefully it'll be rolled out by then. So that's exciting stuff there. Staff writer Richard Sims, as always, thank you, bud.
As always, glad to be here.
Have a tip or a lead on a news story? Let us know. Email tips@cruiseradio.net.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer. If you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com. Tony was on one of the first sailings of Norwegian Cruise Line's brand new Norwegian Luna out of Port Miami. He joins us on the line to unpack this new ship. Tony, how are you, buddy?
Good. How are you, Doug?
Good, my friend. Last time we spoke, you were on a much smaller ship out of Tampa. You've stepped up to your first Prima class ship. So before we get there, I do want to take a step back and get some pre-cruise thoughts from you. What made you want to sail this 7-nighter on Luna out of Miami?
Yeah, so the last time I talked to you on the Dawn, it was my first solo cruise, so it's back with the family again. Actually, we had a larger group go. I think we had about 23 total people go on this trip. The main reason why we chose this itinerary is we actually done this itinerary before. But we wanted to try out the new ship. It's only a month old, and figured, hey, let's try our first Prima class ship. So that was kind of the driving factor for choosing this particular itinerary.
And you make your way down to the South Florida area. Any pre-cruise time before the sailing?
We actually we did go down the night before on a Friday night, but it was literally like our flight got in at 9 p.m. We booked a hotel in the Miami area, and just kind of like hung out at the hotel, got up the next morning and headed over to the ship.
On embarkation morning, how was the traffic getting to the ship from your hotel? Like, because Miami recently has had a lot of either construction or different races or what have you. Was it pretty easy to get from the hotel to the ship?
Yeah, not too bad. We had that concern that we had booked a shuttle. We only had like 9 people on the shuttle that went from our hotel there. We kind of picked a little later boarding time around noon. So we had the shuttle pick us up at 11, and we got there within like 45 minutes. We stayed at an airport hotel, so we weren't that far away. But no, we were nervous about that, but I'm not sure what happened, but we lucked out and got there pretty quickly.
Yeah, I feel like it could be the mad rush to everyone trying to be like one of the first on the ship, because when I sailed Carnival Sunrise a few weeks back, I was staying right there at one of the Bayside hotels, and I didn't leave the Intercontinental until like maybe 1 or 1:30, and we didn't stop once. It was nonstop right to the pier, and boom, dropping off right there at Terminal D. So I think you're onto something there. The later you go, probably the less traffic you're going to have.
Yeah, I think we're pretty experienced cruisers. I think our interest in sitting in the terminal for absolutely no reason is now gone. The lure of that is gone. We'd rather just, kind of try to strategize as soon as we get to the terminal, get through pretty quickly. And that's what happened this time, which was great.
Yeah, and NCL opened that terminal up right around 2019 or so. What did you think of the terminal, and how long did it take you to get from the curb to the ship?
I want to say we were on the ship literally probably in less than 20 minutes, maybe 15 to 20 minutes. We will walk through. They verify you with facial recognition. You go upstairs. You go through like the security where you bring your carry-on bags through. You go up to the check-in desk, do a quick check-in. They give you your key cards, and we just kept walking right on the ship. So we didn't really have any wait at all.
What were your first impressions boarding Norwegian Luna?
Certainly different. Beautiful ship. Like we mentioned earlier, was our first Prima class ship. We've done probably every class of ship in Norwegian. This is the first time. The Luna is beautiful. Again, completely different layout. Same kind of idea most cruise lines are doing now. They kind of push it to your embarkation. Where you go to check in for the safety drill. That takes 2 minutes, and then we were off having lunch. So it was pretty quick. Beautiful ship, just completely different in terms of color scheme, layout. Everything was just a complete reset for us in terms of what we're used to experiencing on a cruise ship.
What kind of stateroom did you book for this 7-night cruise, and how did it stack up for you?
Yeah, my son and I actually were in a room together. My college age son, we were in a standard balcony room. It was great. It was we had plenty of room for the two of us. Again, all modern, all the outlets and everything, USB ports everywhere, USB-C ports next to the bed. Just beautiful layout, plenty of storage, bathroom big enough. Very impressed with the very typical balcony room, but certainly had that new car smell. Everything about it was brand new. So really nothing to complain about.
Compared to other NCL ships you've been on, did the bathroom feel a little more spacious on this one?
I think slightly. I'm not sure if it's just how they lay it out a little differently. I don't think in terms of square footage it's much bigger. But yeah, it definitely had a warmer feel to it. I'm a bigger guy, I can move around in there pretty good. Yeah, I don't know if necessarily it's bigger, but it certainly seemed to be a good layout. Maybe a little bit, they tweaked a lot of things for this ship.
And what floor were you on?
We were on the 10th floor.
10th. Were there any noise issues either above or below you?
No, we lucked out. We were kind of midship. We had a bunch of rooms near each other, and we didn't have any issues at all.
Do you strategize when you're booking your cabin and like, okay, I do not want to be here, I want to be here, don't want to be here?
Yeah, I mean, we try to stay midship if we can. We have like all different age groups traveling with us, some with some mobility issues, things like that. So that's kind of our biggest thing that we're looking at. Mm-hmm. Not knowing this ship, we didn't know really what was the ideal place to go in terms of a room or a cabin. So we kind of took the luck of the draw, but it worked out for us.
Let's talk about the food on board Norwegian Luna. And, well, there are two different type of buffets, we'll call them. Well, maybe not buffets, but literally, we'll start at the buffet first, which is by the pool, the Garden Cafe or Surfside Grill or whatever that is. What did you think of the buffet there? Because this class of ship has gotten some pushback that it probably could be a little bit larger.
Yeah, to kind of just preface, we're not big buffet people to begin with, but I will say it definitely is smaller. In terms of particularly with seating and things like that. Again, we didn't have any issues because we didn't really use it that often. But yeah, it definitely seems smaller. I didn't hear many complaints about it. It didn't seem like, too crazy in there in terms of crowds or anything like that. But definitely a smaller layout because I think they're definitely pushing you to other venues to consider for particularly for like breakfast and lunch.
You also have the Indulge Food Hall, which was a first for you. What did you think of that?
We fell in love with it. Definitely a nice variety, kind of like a tasting menu or tapas menu, however you want to phrase it. And we really enjoyed it. We tried all different things. For those who don't know much about it, you sit down, you find a table. There's a tablet on your table. You scan your room card. It is free dining. And there's different menus, kind of like, if different stations or food truck kind of ideas. So there's a Asian section, a barbecue section, a pasta section, a Latin kind of fare, and you kind of choose whatever you want. You hit submit, and they bring it to your table. They serve you right there. And again, it's smaller plates, so you eat what we eat what you can. If you're still hungry, you go back on the tablet, order some more. Again, it was a good variety. They did change the menu a little bit. In terms of adding things on different days, but in general, it kind of stayed the same. But we really enjoyed the concept. What they do a little different in there for breakfast is they have a more of a buffet set up for breakfast time in there. So you can, if you're looking for like a buffet style breakfast, you can go to the traditional buffet, or you can go in there and all the different stations are set up with different options. Typical breakfast options. But I think because the buffet is a little smaller, I guess they've learned a little bit and kind of expanded the buffet breakfast option into the food hall with more seating and things like that.
Which stall really stuck out to you there?
I want to say the Asian flair. We like a lot of different noodle dishes and like pho dishes, things like that. So we really like Asian food. So we kind of tried almost everything on that menu.
For the main dining rooms, they have the Commodore and I believe Hudson's on this ship.
Yes.
What did you think of the service and the food in the main dining room? And did you pick one over the other, or was it kind of whatever one was open you went to?
You know what? For some reason, because we had a larger group, and Hudson's is kind of like the bigger of the two dining rooms, and the view is really nice there off the back of the ship. We only went to Hudson's when we used the main dining room for dinner, and then it's the only main dining room that's open for breakfast and lunch if you want to have a sit down breakfast and lunch. But the food was excellent. The very typical Norwegian menu that you've seen on other ships and the same rotation. Service was very good. Again, we had a larger party. If you have more than 8 people, I believe that were looking for a table, you can reserve a table in the main dining room for large groups. So we always kind of organized that a little bit and made sure that we had kind of planned around that. And they were always very accommodating for us.
And then you also have the Local, which is another popular complimentary venue there. What did you think of your the service in there and the food selection?
Very good. Again, same as Oceans or the Local on other ships. Where this one's structured a little bit differently. They kind of have a dining room or cafe kind of side to it, and then they have the sports bar side. So if you go to the cafe side, the menu's a little more expansive, very similar to the Local and other ships. If you go on the bar side, more geared towards kind of like a small bites appetizer kind of thing. So you can get like wings or pretzel bites and things like that. So that's the kind of the difference with the Local on this ship that compared to the other ones. Not necessarily a negative thing, but if you were looking really to sit down and have something a little more substantial, they kind of push you over to the cafe side opposed to sitting at the bar or in the tables around the bar area.
Did you do any specialty dining venues on this one?
Yes, it was my first time as a platinum. I turned platinum after the last through the Latitudes program after the last cruise on the Dawn. So we got 3 specialty restaurants included in the free at sea program that we did. And then as a platinum member, I got 2 additional ones. So I had 5 at my disposal. I think I only used 4 of them. But we did do Cagney's Steakhouse. We kind of made that the one meal where we kind of all tried to get together as a group to have a nice meal, and we organized that around Cagney's. Again, great steak, great food there. It's one of our favorites on Norwegian. A couple of us, my son and I, my daughter and my son's girlfriend, went one night to Los Lobos, which is the Mexican specialty restaurant there. Excellent food. Did the tableside guacamole and all that stuff. Really, really good. I had my younger niece and nephew and my sister and brother-in-law. I usually don't do the hibachi teppanyaki thing, but we did osuki, which is the teppanyaki version, just for the show part of it. And my nieces had a blast watching all that and having a good time. Our favorite restaurant that we went on this time, and we haven't seen this on any other Norwegian ship, was the Thai restaurant called Suko Thai. I might be pronouncing it incorrectly, but really nice environment, excellent menu. The food was really good. We really had an enjoyable time in there, from the service, again, to the ambiance, and the menu and the food we had there was excellent as well. So they're the 4 specialty restaurants that we went to this time around, and had great meals at all 4 of them.
You mentioned because you are platinum now with NCL, you received 2 specialty dining credits additional, I guess is the milestone. Is your whole party covered under that 1 credit, or would you and your son wipe out the credits if you did the steakhouse together?
Even though my son's not platinum, it was 2 extras for everyone, like the 2 of us in the room that were on the dining plan. So that when we went to one of the other restaurants, my son also got, he had a credit. He has to eat with me, but it's for me and a guest.
Let's talk about the entertainment on this 7-night cruise here. Of course, you have the big Elton John show. What did you think of the entertainment, and how did it stack up for you and the family?
Oh, we had a blast. So we went to the Fleetwood Mac show, which is on other ships as well. It's a great show. Very similar when we were on the Getaway last year. We saw the same show, very almost identical. A great the Sid Norman's cast or band or whatever they're called did the Fleetwood Mac show. Excellent. The other one, which actually I think is better than the Fleetwood Mac show, was the Eagles show, which is new on the ship. It's an Eagles tribute band. It's the same cast and same band from that does Fleetwood Mac. Excellent show. A lot of fun, high energy. Everybody in the audience was really getting into it. A lot of fun. And then the Elton John show, which is a little different. I'm not sure if anybody's explained it to you, but it's not necessarily like a cover bandish kind of show, like a concert kind of show. It's definitely more of a production show. So you have like dancers and some acrobats and things like that. And it's kind of Elton John inspired. So the music is Elton John music and Elton John songs that you know. However, it's a little more artsy from the point of view where there are singers and things like that, but it's definitely focused on the artistic expression of the artist on the stage. So it is a little different flair. So you kind of heard mixed reviews on it. We enjoyed it, but we're artsy theater kind of people. Others were like expecting to see what they saw at the Eagles show or the Fleetwood Mac show, which was a pure like band, playing Elton John music. And that's not what this was.
The Prince show morphs into a dance party after the Prince show is over. Is the Elton John show the same way?
I don't recall the interactive part. We went and saw it twice because the first time we kind of were on the side of this theater, so we almost saw the whole show like from a backstage point of view because we could see down on the stage. So my daughter and I went back a second time to kind of watch it from the front. But no, that wasn't there. It's very technical. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of like electronics and LED displays, and the set is pretty cool. There's all these different like pianos all over, say real pianos, but they're just kind of immersive into the set. So yeah, as you know, the Prima class has a different concept for their theater where the theater also doubles as like a large dance floor club kind of idea. So after the shows are over and the audience leaves from the last show of the evening, the seats kind of retract, and then you got a big dance floor there. So a lot of times they would theme the dance that night around a particular genre or maybe Elton John music or 70s music, and that's where that space was used for that. where in other ships, like breakaway class ships, they typically use like Spice H2O or one of those other venues for those large events, but they had them all in there for this ship.
Outside of the theater, did anything catch your ear, or like any comedy shows or piano players or anything like that?
Yeah, there was a lot of really good music around the ship. We didn't go see any of the comedy shows, but everything else was really good. We do my daughter who's 18 and I like bingo. We're like two old people, I guess, playing bingo, but we play bingo. Kind of weird. This is interesting. So my daughter's like very lucky. I'm the loser. She wins all the time. Mm-hmm. She actually won the free cruise on this ship, the raffle. So we won a free cruise on this ship.
Wow.
So we'll be using that soon.
That's really cool. I'm curious if they bury these free cruises in red tape.
I haven't gotten into the weeds on doing anything with it yet, but it's basically a cruise for two for 5-day or less cruise on an inside cabin. But the way I understand it, some of the initial research says that we can upgrade and things like that. So I'm just starting the process of kind of researching that now. So I'm trying to work around my kids' college schedules and things like that to see when it works. But yeah, hopefully it's beneficial. The way they do that is throughout the week, different packages you buy in the different game shows, whether it's bingo or another one, and you buy bingo cards to also include like raffle tickets. And at the last bingo of the cruise, you take all the raffle tickets that you've kind of gathered through the week and you put them in the basket. And then after the second game of bingo, they draw the prize, and the prize is always the grand prize being the bingo. And we were fortunate this time. So.
That's awesome. And how about, we'll call it what's entertainment, I guess you could say, the aqua coaster?
Yeah, I didn't do it because I'm old, but like my kids did it. They liked it. They thought it was looked really cool. And they thought, oh my God, wow, this is going to be neat. And they were a little underwhelmed because it kind of like takes off really fast. And then it's like it slows down and like it's kind of slow ride through. They had a good time, but it wasn't, they didn't run away like, awesome, let's go back in line. They were
right.
Okay, it was fun, but it is what it is. One of the things that, just kind of one critique is they've kind of over-teched some of the simple stuff. So they have this up on one of the upper decks, they have like a game area where they have like pickleball and miniature golf and other table games and beer pong and all these other things that you can do. Some of them cost money, some of them are free. Some of the tech associated with that, even already just a month in, was kind of not working or abused or overused or wasn't well thought out. So if there was one criticism about the new spaces that they have, is they're going to have to tighten some of that up, which I'm surprised they haven't done yet, since this is the fourth ship of this class. So there was definitely some of that. Again, didn't affect me because I don't do that stuff. But some of the younger people that I was with said, yeah, they went up there and used it and didn't really work right and looked like it was already beat up. So that was one thing that we kind of observed.
So I guess you didn't do the drop then, the 10-story free fall slide.
Yeah, I think my son did it. He had a good time with that. That was pretty cool. Like, it's a dry slide. It's not really a wet slide, but
right.
they liked it. Again, the ship is beautiful. Everything about it, we had a great time. But there's a lot of cool things to do like that. So this one has the aqua coaster, and as well as the aqua, and I guess the previous renditions had the go-kart track, which this doesn't have.
So for sea days, as far as crowds and congestion, what did you think?
Not too bad. We went the week before Memorial Day, so it was kind of right before when some schools were out, some aren't. So there wasn't a ton of kids. My kids are college age, so they were home already. And so what didn't feel too crowded. But I think one thing they did well, so you get kind of a criticism of these Prima class ships, that they're very compartmentalized in terms of setting up. There's not one big kind of thoroughfare that you would have on the traditional cruise ship or on the breakaway class, where you have like the big atrium and you kind of walk from one end to the other. This is a lot different. It's definitely it's more compartmentalized, so you don't feel the crowds. Like, you really feel like they've done a good job of kind of managing space where people have a lot of different options and a lot of different places to go. They have a really nice observation lounge there. They have a deck that kind of goes around that has like different pools and hot tubs and things like that. So there's definitely the traditional pool deck, but there's also other areas to go hang out. Plenty of sun loungers everywhere. I just think they've really done a nice job. If you are open-minded, if you're used to the traditional cruise ship, layout and you're stuck in that and you're not willing to adapt, this may not be the ship for you. But we loved it. We loved that concept. We loved the idea of finding a corner somewhere in the ship to go that was kind of our space. And I think the Prima class has done a good job of doing that, supporting that. So again, the crowd situation really wasn't in your face too much the whole time we were there.
Did you spend any time on, I believe it's deck 8, Infinity Beach, for that waterfront promenade?
Yeah, we did. We spent a lot of time there. My daughter really liked it because she was going to the prom a week after we got back. So she was excited to be out and hang out because there was, again, plenty of sun loungers. They have like those day beds, and what's a little different about this ship, you can buy the Vibe Beach Pass, which we didn't, or some of the other, upcharge kind of things. But you didn't feel like you had to because there was definitely plenty of other places to go to hang out. And that infinity pool deck is definitely one of them.
All right. How about the casino as far as the smoke situation in and around it? And does this ship have a dedicated non-smoking casino?
I don't know the answer to that. We didn't spend a lot of time there, but I will say I walked through a couple of times just to see what it was like. And I didn't even smell a twinge of smoke. I mean, be honest with you, the whole ship had that new leather, furniture smell to it. And it really didn't notice it. They do have a smoking lounge cigar bar thing. And even when I walked by that, it was very well ventilated. You couldn't really smell any cigar smoke. And there was definitely people in there when I walked by.
Being that it was your first time on a Prima class ship, what did you think of that atrium layout?
Definitely a different concept because so obviously on a lot of the other ships, particularly the breakaway class ships, that's really a main gathering place where they have like game shows and there's a big screen there and they might show movies and other stuff. That doesn't exist there at all. It's definitely not an entertainment space. It's definitely a more of a lounge feeling space. So obviously they have the customer service desk and the future cruise desk and the Starbucks is there and all those kind of the internet cafe and all that. But it was nice. I thought it was a much better concept. You felt like you can go there, grab a Starbucks, grab a drink, just hang out before dinner, during the day or whatever, and all 3 levels. So on the first level of it is the casino area. So that's, again, you didn't smell any smoke coming from the casino and any other decks. And then the next deck up is where kind of the guest services was, a Starbucks. And the third deck up was some shopping. The local was up there, things like that. So it definitely was more broken up than a traditional atrium. But I actually liked the feel. I thought I can go down there, read, hang out. I just really enjoyed it. So my 2 kind of old guy hangout places was there or the observation lounge. I love the observation lounge on their other ships. And I really liked it on this ship as well.
Yeah, that area is nice where the Starbucks is too, because if you're a remote worker, you could sit at the bar there or at those tables around Starbucks, and they all have plugs in USB. Oh, yeah, so that's nice too if you're doing some work while you're on board.
Absolutely. I brought my laptop and I invested in the highest Wi-Fi package and because I had some work to do. And again, I agree with you. It's if you need to connect, first of all, the Wi-Fi is amazing on the ship. Secondly, there's a lot of places to go work and set up. It's a great setup.
Let's talk about your ports of call on this 7-night cruise. So you leave Port Miami. So tell us your first port and give us your highlight.
First port was the Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic. We just kind of hung out in the port. There's a nice pool at that port. We just kind of walked off, hung out at the pool, had some drinks, did a little shopping, just made a relaxing day of it. We didn't really leave the port area, but had a really good time. Again, we were, I believe, the only ship at the time in dock there. So, we had a great time because it wasn't too nuts there.
So the first day was Miami. Second day was a sea day. Day 3 is Puerto Plata. And then what was up next?
St. Thomas. Again, we were probably the only, for St. Thomas, this is really weird. I think we were just kind of on the shoulder end of the tail end of the cruise season to St. Thomas. We were the only ship in Port St. Thomas, which I've never been there, where there hasn't been 5 or 6 ships in port at one time. We actually just got off the ship. We found, one of those trucks. It's like a taxi. We paid a couple $100. He took 9 of us around the island, all the typical stops in St. Thomas. And we stopped at a beach at the end, spent a half hour there, had a great day in St. Thomas, just touring around, having fun. It's one of my favorite places to go. Did some shopping, but drank some rum, hung out at the beach. We had a great day in St. Thomas.
And then what was up next?
Tortola. This is probably one of my least favorite ports. I've been there before. We kind of told ourselves we weren't going to do anything that day, and we didn't. So we briefly got off the ship, walked around the port, which isn't. I'm not sure if you've been there before. There's not much at that port to do. It's a very small port, not very well developed. A couple shops, things like that. And then we made it kind of another sea day when everybody was off the ship and just enjoyed the ship that day.
Is Tortola the port where they all run together? You could do the Gorda baths?
Yeah, I would suggest for people who've gone to Tortola for the first time, that's probably like there's a lot of ports that you can kind of figure your own way out. I would say Tortola, of all the ones for this itinerary, is the one you probably have to do some pre-planning if you want to do something specific.
Then after Tortola, where did you head to?
So we had another day at sea on that Thursday, and then Friday we went to Great Stirrup Cay, Bahamas, and had a great time there. We had perfect weather. We really lucked out the entire time. The water was like glass, everything. As you know, there's the dock's not open now, so you have to tender. It's a little bit of a headache going back to that. It was fine though. We got off the ship pretty quickly. It's the first time I've been back to Great Stirrup Cay since they put that pool in there, the lagoon or whatever they call it there. And I was really impressed with that. I give Norwegian a lot of credit for the development of that island. Definitely now offers another space to hang out other than the beach. We didn't leave the pool. Everybody got off the ship. We kind of like had a clamshell and everything at the beach. We didn't even really use it that much because we enjoyed the pool. It's huge. I've never seen a pool that big, 2 swim up bars. We just had a blast hanging out in that pool. And it was awesome. We just had a really good time.
The pier area then, so they opened the pier around Christmas. And then what do? They shut it again to finish the construction on it?
Yeah, it looks like it's definitely under construction. I mean, it's structurally there, but definitely is not done. Like there's still, when we were there that day, you could see construction workers on there. They're still driving pilings in, like to make it bigger, I guess. It's there, but you could tell it's unfinished. I'm not sure. I haven't heard a date when it's opening yet, but it definitely will make life a lot easier for everybody when they do that, particularly if there's multiple ships. We were the only ship there, so it wasn't too bad. But for a larger ship like the Luna or even some of the larger breakaway classes, that tendering process it frustrates a lot of people because it just takes a long time. I mean, I think Norwegian does their best to organize it. And if you pay attention and listen to the announcements and register and sign up for a time and all that, you're fine. But if you're not on top of all that stuff, it can be a frustrating process.
Because you mentioned you had a clamshell, did you have Shorex credit with your free at sea, or are you even able to use it for that?
The issue is, though, I don't think it applies to that, though. I think it's only for like a pure excursion.
Okay.
Which it frustrates some people because you have that $50 that you're thinking about using for something. But I ended up using it because my son wanted to do a jet ski with his girlfriend, so I used it towards that. So I didn't waste it. But with
that pool, would you say it complements the beach or competes with it?
It depends on what you like to do. If you want to lay out in the sun at the sand and you're a beach person, I think you got that. If you don't need that or don't want that, there's the pool option. There's plenty of loungers around the pool. They do some entertainment, like whatever, like sexy leg stuff and things like that. And they have like a little island in the middle of the pool. And so they do a lot of presentations and things like that there. So again, it kind of depends on what you're looking for. And then when they get the water park open, I guess in the fall, there'll be a third option for you. So there's definitely, I think they're trying to compete with the island right across the way there for Royal Caribbean, but at the same time, I think both are really a good option. I don't necessarily think they compete, but they definitely complement depending on what your tastes are.
Yeah, September 4th, that water park is supposed to open there. What was the food situation like on the island?
So they had typical buffet barbecue, like, chicken and burgers and hot dogs and things like that. And then they have a couple like stands or food truck options. They have like a taco place, a couple places like that. So you definitely have your options of food. I don't even remember if I even ate anything on the island. I don't know. I definitely drank a few things, but there's a bunch of options.
All right, so you make your way back to Port Miami. How was the debark on Norwegian Luna?
Simple. Yeah, we had a late flight out of Fort Lauderdale, so we were trying to kill time before we got off the ship. But yeah, we got up. We put our bags out the night before. We got up, had breakfast. We were off the ship probably by like 9 o'clock. Walked right out. The facial recognition through customs, right out to the curb. Our shuttle driver picked us up. I mean, we were from the time we decided, okay, let's get off the ship. It was probably 10 to 15 minutes in. We were sitting in our shuttle.
Do you have any first-time tips, being that this was your very first time on a Prima class ship? So any tips for someone sailing their first Prima class?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know, if you've never done a Norwegian ship, you won't know the difference. But if you are a common Norwegian traveler or even to go on ships, this is definitely a different experience. But I think it's a better experience. I think they really, again, I can't compete it to the Prima or in terms of the evolution now to the Luna, but definitely the Luna is a solid product, a solid design. When you board the ship, explore. Don't be afraid to try different food and try different experiences. Don't rely on the buffet because the buffet is small, but there's a lot of great food options on the Luna.
Looking back, what was the biggest highlight of this cruise for y'all?
I didn't mention this, but I took my nephew on one of those behind the scenes tours of the ship. I've done them before on other classes of Norwegian ships, so I thought it'd be cool to see this one. We just had a really good time. He kind of geeked out on all the stuff we got to see and had a really good time. For me, that was the biggest highlight. The second being all the different spaces on the Luna that you can find for yourself to relax or work or just read.
Where do they take you on the behind the scenes tour?
They take you to one of the galleys, and one of the chefs speak to you about the process of cooking and how to cook for so many people. They take you to the stores on the ship. So they talk about how they provision everything, how they do inventory management, where they store all the food and things like that. They take you to the engine control room, and one of the engineers speaks to you about the technical side of the ship and the mechanics and the electronics and everything about the kind of the guts to the Luna. They take you on a behind the scenes tour of the theater, and you meet one of the production managers, and they talk about all the technology and how they put on the shows in the theater. They take you to the laundry, which, believe it or not, is probably one of the more interesting things on the ship in terms of how they process all the laundry and the sheets and the bedding and the dining room linens, all that kind of stuff. And then they wrap up on the bridge, and they give you a tour of the bridge, which is really cool.
Those tours are just so cool from a logistics standpoint. I mean, everything from engine oil to toilet paper to laundry detergent, how they always have enough. And I know it all goes through like one big processing center and a bunch of different departments, but it's just so fascinating.
For those of us who don't see the behind the scenes, is really the gain of an appreciation for how hard those cruise staff work every day, 7 days a week, 6 to 8 months out of the year. And I left the laundry thinking, these people are working very hard, literally 7 days a week, and the only spot they probably see is the bilge of the ship, processing laundry until they're done their contract. So it really, I think, gives you a greater appreciation for what not only what goes on to provide you with a great vacation, but the work and every level of work from the captain down to somebody who's a service person and the great people they are. Every time I've been on a cruise ship, I've never complained. I've never had a bad time. I'm not that kind of traveler because I really do appreciate the hard work that people do and where they come from. And I find it very interesting culturally to speak to everybody on the crew. And I think you have to appreciate that. Anytime you travel in a cruise ship is a good way to appreciate that.
Yeah, like the laundry room runs 24 hours a day, and the bakery on the ships, they run like 18 to 19 hours a day. It's just, it's mind-boggling to me how it just constantly pumping out, but I guess you have to when you have like 6,000, 5,000 people and crew on board. So,
and one of the couple people I was traveling with that are in my family happened to be Filipino. And as you know, significant number of crew on a lot of cruise ships, and Norwegian is different, are hail from the Philippines. And he speaks to Tagalog and is able to speak to them. So we really get to know a lot of the crew and their backstories and where they're from in Philippines. So we're really into it. So it's definitely gives you a great appreciation for the sacrifices they make to help their families back home.
And in closing here, Tony, your final thoughts of Norwegian Luna?
enjoyed it, loved it, definitely want to go back. I love the Luna, I love the Prima class ship, but it won't stop me from going back on the Dawn or a Breakaway class ship either.
We've been talking with Tony about his 7-night cruise on Norwegian Luna out of Port Miami. Tony, as always, good talking to you, my friend, and thanks for sharing this review with us.
Thanks, Doug. Good talking to you as always.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,